Lisa.
And we are Green Meeple, Purple Meeple. And we are continuing our exploration of our game collection. We took a little bit of time off because we went on a little vacation across the country to Disneyland. It was a lot of fun. And then I picked up a new piece of furniture for putting some games in, and I cut my head open, so I have. But see, I don't think you can even be a gamer if you haven't cut open your head while picking up a piece of furniture for getting new games. Anyways, we're on the second row, second box. So today we have an assortment of games for you.
As usual.
As usual.
So I am going to start with compatibility. Compatibility, there we go. Compatibility is a 2 to 6 player game, and it is, it says 3 to 6 players, but sure. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, probably.
But anyway,
yeah.
3 to 6 players.
It's
and
for couples, so it's for
couples mostly.
Yeah.
Basically the gameplay is you have every player has a deck of cards that are all the same cards, and then there's like a clue card basically where it may say hope, and you take 5 or however many cards it dictates, and you're trying to come up with the closest match between you and your partner to see how compatible you are. So
the decks of cards have pictures on them, photographs, drawings, words, sometimes just colors.
Yeah. And it's a dated game. I think we've looked up, it's from like 1996. Yeah, 1996. But we actually really enjoy playing it.
As with most party games, it is it kind of corrupts our target method.
Yes.
Z. Garcia's target method.
Yes.
Yeah.
So again, the target method, theme, arts, replayability, game length, ease, and tactics.
What are your lowest scores?
Lowest scores would be tactics and theme.
Yeah, mine is tactics, theme, and art. What's your low score?
The lowest?
I mean, what's the actual number?
2.
2? Whoa, okay. See, for me, a low score is 6, but yeah, I mean, theme is hard to...
Right.
Yeah, it's hard. It's not. I mean, it's a party game. It's hard to have theme, so it's not. It's not important that we have theme, but the art is very dated, and I think even the Dice Tower people have said they wish that they'd come up with a new deck of cards or a new edition or something. Mm-hmm. So please do that, because that would be really cool, just to have an updated version of it. Yeah.
Top scores, they were all tied with replayability, game length, and ease of play. It's an easy game. We've played this with several different couples, and we enjoy playing it. And replayability, just because it's different every time you play, because it's a different group of people often. It's not something you want to play with the same group of couples over and over.
We like to use it especially for a new couple that we haven't played games with and we barely know, because it's kind of fun to see how they think. It causes some interesting discussions, especially when, you know, the word is love, and, you know, each person puts it, if you don't match on what you think of as love in your deck of cards, it makes some people get a little shocked with each other, like, oh, why would you put that, or why didn't you put that, or whatever. And it's kind of fun for that. And I just had one top score, ease of play, 10, because it is something very, very simple to explain to basically anybody.
So
I could do price too, because we got it for
$6.99.
Not bad. Yeah, you will probably see this somewhere at a thrift store, so I recommend picking it up if you do.
So as we already know with our ratings, I usually rate much lower than Adam, so my total score on this game is a 5. However, we said that this game breaks the target scoring method, because we actually really do enjoy this game when, as Adam said, we have a new couple over. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to sit and play it by ourselves.
And maybe a couple that you can sense is doing fine. You probably wouldn't want to play this with a couple that was needed counseling or something, because this might end up ending their marriage if they can't seem to connect. So mine was, my total was a 7.3. All right, our second game for this shelf is a family weight game. It was a Spiel des Jahres nominee by Haba Games, and that is Karuba. And Karuba has an interesting theme of like an Indiana Jones temple maze thing. It's almost has a bingo thing going on. Everybody has the same board. Everybody has to lay out their 3 or 4 temples
and
on one side of the board, and 3 or 4 explorers. I guess it's 4
each.
Is it 4 each? Yeah, I think so. It's been a little while since I played it, but I totally remember it. And so you have, and they're a certain color. So you have a brown Indiana Jones and a brown temple, and everybody's got them in the same spot, and teal and yellow and yellow, and that's why I can only think of those 3 colors. That's why I think it's 3, but we'll find out. And because you're playing with the same game, and you also have a deck of little maze tiles, I guess you call them, and they have different numbers of roads heading off of them, anywhere from 2 to 4 possible different directions leading off of the tile. The bingo caller has theirs in a shuffled stack. Everybody else has theirs in a numerical sort of ring around their blank map. And the bingo caller picks one out, says 27. Everybody grabs 27, and everyone has to place 27 at the same time, simultaneously. And that's where it gets really interesting, because everybody's got the same layout, everybody's got the same maze tiles that get called, but everyone has to use them differently. They all have to choose what they want to do. They might use them all the same, but it's just, it's the luck of the minds around you, basically, whether or not it's very strategic in that way. The other thing is that you cannot, you're putting them down to make a maze to connect all of your temples and Indiana Joneses, but then also simultaneously you have to use the number of pathways to dictate your movement. Mm-hmm. So if I want to, I can lay down my three exits tile to make my map more intricate and make my maze work. Or I can cash it in, and then allows me to move one of my Indiana Joneses 3 times.
On a tile you've already placed.
On tiles that you've already placed. So what usually ends up happening with new players is they make the perfect map where everything is connected, but then they've run out of tiles and they can't move their people far enough. Almost all the time. I don't think I may have once connected all of my Indiana Joneses and my temples, but for the most part you have to let 1 or 2 of them go, because just for the sake of completing the game and moving everybody, you run out of tiles. Really, really clever mechanic that I haven't seen again. Not that I've played hundreds of games like a lot of YouTubers, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So what is your bottom score?
I have a 6, but that's kind of across the board for tactics, replayability, art, and theme. We're all 6s.
Okay. Mine replayability was a 6, and that was my low score. Yeah. Just because it is the same game. I mean, you are getting different tile flips each time, but it's kind of, you wouldn't play it a whole bunch, I think. But it's definitely fun for families. I can't wait till our kids get old enough to kind of incorporate them into it. And what about top scores?
Game length and ease, because it's all I got left.
I had theme and ease. I like the explorer thing that is happening, Indiana Jonesy type stuff. And so for me, that makes a total of 7.6 as my
And I
overall.
was a 6.6.
Cool. So that's basically the same.
In our ratings, yes.
Yep.
All right, so our next game is Photosynthesis, and we got this game a long time ago when we first started gaming, and I recall not liking it when we first started gaming, and I don't really know why. We replayed this
I think because we stunk at gaming at that time, we had no idea what we were
Possibly.
doing. Yeah.
But we replayed it a few weeks ago in preparation for this video so we could rate it and talk about it. So basically you have a forest and you are planting and growing trees from seeds, and each round the sun moves, and as the sun moves, then that determines the growth of your trees and what trees grow, and that determines your points basically. So the way you plant your trees or how your trees grow can impact how your opponent's trees grow. We've never played with more than 2 people, so it may be a little bit more difficult with more than 2 players, but I think it would make it...
I think I played with 3 once.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it would make it more interesting, as oftentimes happens when you play a game with more than 2 players.
Certainly a lot nastier, if I remember correctly, because you start stepping on each other. The difficult part is when you are playing, even with 2 people, at some point you're going to get to the point where your tree grows tall enough that it now blocks a smaller tree behind, and the rules are that this tree does not get any sun if this tree is too tall, which makes sense thematically. And sun is what you use to, it's your currency for doing things like growing and spreading seeds and basically allowing you to move forward in the game. And so you're actually blocking the ability of your opponents to make any cash during that round. It's a kind of mean.
It's not difficult to play. It was pretty fun. We played it this last time, so certainly could revisit it. So for lowest score, I had a 4 actually for replayability. Because again, it's the same game. You're growing trees, the sun moves. That's about it.
Yeah, I had game length and ease of play, because for me, all the times I've played it, it ends up taking quite a lot of time, I thought, compared to what it is.
Gotcha.
And then as far as the ease of play goes, I was thinking more of the more than 2 players. I think it gets easier when it's 2. It's almost like a weird chess game. But with more than 2, it starts to become very challenging to get just a few sun points each round, when you can't see the forest through the trees, I guess. I don't know. You can't see the trees through the forest. And that makes it challenging. So that was both of those were 6s for me.
And then my top score was an 8 for theme. I do like the theme, the growing the trees, and it's got each player is a different type of tree, and one of these is blue in the player pieces, but I've never really seen blue trees. But for the most part, it's a nice theme.
Mine is 9 for art, because these are, if you look at these gorgeous trees standing, I mean, it looks like a forest standing on the game table. And for me, that's kind of cool to see. It's a beautiful game to look at.
And even though all those trees are there, they still fit in the box.
Yeah.
So total score for photosynthesis was a 6.5.
And mine was 7.1.
Okay, you're up.
Yes. Oh, yes. Small World. Okay, Small World. This is an area control game, and it's kind of one of the earlier ones that I ever played. In the beginning, it was tough. I mean, I think part of it, same with photosynthesis around that same time period, is that I wasn't used to things that got so mean, like where you're directly attacking somebody. I think I'm a little more used to that now, and so it makes me enjoy things more. But this was another one that I wasn't sure about early on. The basic idea is you have this small island. This is not in any way affiliated with the Disney Small World, which is stuck in my head right now from going to Disney. But the basic idea is that you've got not enough room, but you've got all these different races or creatures that you are playing, and you draw them out of a middle, and each one has an ability and a characteristic and a race So you might be wealthy elves or, barbarous monkeys or whatever, and there's a bunch of them, and there's expansions galore. I have one of them. I would not intend to get any more because there's plenty of creatures in here, and each creature and each ability or characteristic gives you a certain set of special player powers, and each round you're just spreading yourselves out as far as you can to take in as many of those little plots of land as you can, and then you score points for all of that. And then you gather them back up a little bit and spread out a little bit further. And eventually you're so spread out that you can no longer exist as that ethnicity. And so you flip them over and they go into extinction. And then you pick another one. And then you're gathering points for the ones that are still out there as they slowly are eaten up by the next incoming group. And you are now bringing in your own next group, and you usually go through about 2 to 3 creatures, I think, in a game, which is kind of fun, and it makes it challenging because you have to think, oh wait, I can't do that thing anymore because I'm not that creature anymore. We're still recovering from jet lag. Yeah, so that's Small World. Low score for me was the theme. I'm not huge on fantasy. I don't have a lot of fantasy games, but even that was not a terribly low score. It was a 7. So
he's so kind. My low score was a 3 for art. Me and art.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes art, even though it's well done, unless I view it as beautiful, I don't rate it as a high one. So.
And then high scores, I had 9s for replayability, game length, ease of play, and tactics, because it is a really engaging game, as I said. I like that you don't get to do a lot of races because you don't go through them real quickly. Mm-hmm. You'd have to play this game several times just to get through the basic number of, and even then you wouldn't have it, the combos are different because you're flipping the characteristics as well. So you might be wealthy elves this time. Next game, you're barbarous elves or something like that, which makes them a little bit different.
For my top score, I gave it game length and the tactics because I did like the way that you try to conquer and move your people and all that sort of thing.
No.
I gave both those a 7.
Cool. So total?
5.5. 5.5.
5.5. Wow. Okay. I gave mine an 8.5 because I thought this is a well done game.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually put under my notes for this one that Small World was forgettable because I'm like, wait, which game is that again? Maybe we played it a few more times.
Yeah. All right. Next one is yours.
Is mine. Pandemic, which became probably more popular in 2020 for reasons we all know. But Pandemic is actually one of the first games Adam ever brought for me to play. Because he thought, oh, she's a nurse and I like her and I'm going to introduce a game. So if you don't know Pandemic, you have a map of the world and you've got certain targeted or primary cities and you've got 4 different diseases that are going to be infecting these cities. And you, as the scientists, are trying to eradicate the disease. But while you're trying to eradicate the disease is spreading. This is a cooperative game. There are 15,000 different expansions for it. The only one that we own is In the Lab, and we have yet to beat In the Lab. But we are solely reviewing Pandemic right now. So that's kind of the gist of it. It's not an easy game to win, and sometimes it's to the wire. But you have each player has a different role and has different abilities in addition to what you can do for each action. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the explanation of Pandemic. Would you like to give your low score first?
Yeah, my low scores were theme and art. It's just not my cup of tea as far as, it's a good look for what it is, I guess, but I just, I'm not really into it. And then as far as like healing the world of disease. I don't know. Maybe it's been, we didn't play it at all in 2020 or 2021.
Right.
Like, because it was just, we were kind of over it. And so I understand why people wouldn't like this theme. And there's been others that have come out where you're working together to do something. And I tend to lean towards those as themes more.
I think if one had rated this in 2019, it would have been different.
Yeah.
My low score was for a 4 for art, because there's really not a lot of art to it. You just have cubes and maps and cities. High score.
I have replayability and tactics. I do 9s.
Okay. I have a 9 for theme and replayability. And then tactics was an 8. I love this game. Part of it, I think, is nostalgia. I do like the theme because the first time we played, the setup instructions, you put your research station in Atlanta. And Adam's like, I don't know why that is. I said, well, that's because the CDC headquarters is in Atlanta. But he didn't know that.
Well, now we all know
We all know that now. But when we first played this in 2016, we lived in a different world.
Right.
But I do like this game a lot. I think part of it is it's one of the first games I played. And it's not like, oh, I know how to play this and we just win. Every time you play, you have to figure out how to win, because the replayability of where the disease spreads and what card comes up, because you've got 2 different decks of cards you're shuffling through, so that affects the play. And just actually you've got a 3rd deck because you've got your rolls.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will say we do choose our roles, especially if there's only 2 of us, because otherwise you have no hope. So my overall score for Pandemic, and I take that back, not the highest for this group, so I might have spoiled something. Pandemic is 7.16.
Okay, mine is an 8.
Okay. And that's Pandemic.
Now this one I picked up at Gen Con the one year that I went, which was like 2015.
Before we met.
Before we met. Ooh. This is Cubist. And this was one where I just kind of picked it up on a whim because of the theme, because I'm a big art nut. Art and music, they kind of, lock in together for me. And Cubism is if you've ever seen Picasso with his kind of jagged lines and strange shapes kind of overlapping and a little bit abstract, that's what Cubism is. And I was thinking, a game based on Cubism, that's gonna be interesting. And it is. I think it's kind of cool. It's a dice building game. So you are rolling dice, and then those values are going to determine where in your structures you can build, you can add. And you have 2 little workshops going. You could be working on up to 2 different shapes. There's also a central shape that everybody's working on, and it's things like you can only stack dice if they're the same number, and you can only go up or down by 1 pip value if the dice are touching. So if I need to have 3 next to each other, and then 2 on top of each other on the end of that, and I start with a 3, I can go 3, 4, 5, and then a 5 on top of the 5, or I can go 3, 2, 1, and a 1 on top of that 1. It makes for some challenges, and then you're also getting to use special dice manipulation powers from various Cubist artists in the middle. And I think it kind of grabs hold of that love of Cubism that apparently the game designers had in mind, and I appreciate that. So, what's your low score? Well, art.
Art and theme. Yep, the things that he loves the most.
It's all right. So what is it?
Oh, sorry, those were both 3s.
Both 3s, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I love this game in a lot of ways, but actually art is one of my low scores, but it's not. It's just because it's not very pretty as a game. It looks a little bit. This is an older one. I mean, what does old mean in game world? I mean, what, 5 years? No. But it's not terribly recent, and it looks a little bit prototypish to me. Mm-hmm. Especially the cards that show which things you're building. The actual artwork is Cubist, and it's real stuff that they paid to get on the cards, but maybe that's why they didn't have real great art for the rest of it. But it's not real super pretty, and so I gave it a 7, along with ease of play and tactics. Sometimes I found myself consulting the rule page several times, and it didn't flow real super easy, but it's still 7s. So
because he's so kind.
Yeah.
Top score for me was game length and ease, because I thought it was pretty easy to play.
Yeah.
The game length, it goes fairly quickly. My biggest negative about this game is the end of game trigger. You hit that and you're done.
Mm-hmm.
You have no chance to try to finish what you're doing. Nothing. It's like, okay, your opponent did this, that ends the game.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is something that neither of us loves in games. It's always nice to have and everyone takes one more
Right.
Turn or whatever. That usually makes it.
Or that the game ends at the end of the round, and there's a defined end. But anyway.
Well, so for mine, no surprise. It's going to be the theme. It's very nicely played out, I think, for a game about. It's hard to make a game about art or about music, because those things are just. There's not a lot of connection between those types of fine arts or dance or whatever, any of the fine arts, and a game. It's a little bit challenging to make it come through the mechanics of the game, I think. And this does a really nice job. So I gave it a 10 for that, using that theme and doing it well. So there we go, Cubist.
So my overall score is a 5.16.
Yes, and mine is a 7.8.
Okay.
All right, our very last one is a relatively new one that I just kick-started within the last year or so, and that is The Fox Experiment by Elizabeth Hargraves. And that's the third that we've done by her. Or did we do Wingspan yet? I don't know.
We haven't reviewed Wingspan yet.
Oh, spoiler alert! Yeah, so again,
so.
the masterful game designer Elizabeth Hargraves, and especially when it comes to doing things that have to do with nature and lifespan and life cycle. I mean, she just has a real gift for that particular thing, and letting that come through. It's a very thoughtful thing. Some people were very angered by this particular theme because it is a real thing that happened near Russia, where they were trying to domesticate foxes by breeding for positive traits. So friendliness and curly tail and quiet yip or something like that. I don't know. There's various things that people would want to get out of foxes. Foxes are very cute, but they don't work as pets. And I don't think they were very successful because we don't have foxes in the pet store. But it was an attempt out there to try to make them. That's why it was an experiment, right? She got a lot of garbage for that, using that theme, but I like it. I think it's very clever, and it's something that happened. I mean, it's not like she made it up or something,
And again, you're not actually experimenting on foxes. Right. It is a game.
Yes.
So
exactly. So the way that this comes across is you get to roll a lot of dice, and the dice are special, customized with little symbols on them that represent those traits, and then represent a wild trait, or something that can be used for any trait. And in the beginning, you take a mommy fox and a daddy fox, and you collect the dice that come with them, roll them, see what happens. You create a next generation of baby foxes, and then you put those out to be the new daddies and mommies, and now everybody has access to your creations, which is really cool, because it makes you think, oh man, I don't want to make Super Fox necessarily, because if somebody else snatches that fox up, then they get the points the next round from that creation. So it's really clever in that that aspect of it is just very, very clever, and I enjoyed it.
Now, did you do a expansion to this also?
It was the Kickstarter had a lot of fancy stuff in it, but
Okay,
that was
because this
about-
is a 1 to 4 player. I thought we played with more than that.
Yes, there was. Yeah, there was. We have a 5 to 6 player.
I thought
expansion.
so because I'm like, I know we played
Yes,
this with
we played
a
it with
whole
6.
table full of people.
Yeah.
So Fox Experiment, low score.
Low score. Low score is going to be ease of play. I gave it a 6 because this is one where I kind of explained what just happened, but I would definitely have to reread something or watch a video in order to fully grasp every aspect of it. I know there's some stuff I'm forgetting in there. It's not as simplistic as I would have thought, but it's okay. But it's just, it ends up being I don't mind a hard game, but it is hard or it can be hard.
But it's manageable because when we played with what, 12 and 14-year-old. Yeah, 13. Oh, they're 13 and 15 now. Sorry, guys. My low score was a 6 for tactics, because actually, like he says, the ease of play is not quite so easy, but basically you're rolling dice and putting those traits, you're just kind of matching them up with your puppies, cubs, whatever you call wolves,
Foxes. I don't know, what's a baby fox called? A cub, probably.
Yeah, anyway, so I just thought tactics were not as high as other things because you're just rolling dice, putting those combos together and making your foxes.
Fair. That's fair.
And then top score?
Top scores, tie between theme and art. I really like the little foxes, foci. and they are, and then there's kind of a wintry Siberian background to the whole board. Now, I also got the fancy version that has the
neoprene mat.
Yeah, neoprene mats and all that kind of stuff. So that's part of what kind of pushes me there. But I really do appreciate taking a challenging theme and really kind of teaching genetics a little bit, because that's one of the things I'm looking forward to is as our kids get older and they start learning about genetics in school. We now have 2. I think we did genotype in like one of our, I think we talked about genotype.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and genotype is like pea plants. Well, this is like genotype foxes, which is kind of exciting, and it talks more about this is something. This is why I thought it was kind of silly that she got such flack about this, because this is how we have dogs. This is how, to some extent, we have cats. Although cats were not bred down as much because they wanted them to still hunt mice.
Right.
But this is what we do. I mean, humans domesticate animals by breeding for traits that they want, and sometimes it's not great. I mean, certainly if you want to talk about horrible stuff, it's like the pugs and things like that they've done, where now the pugs can barely breathe because they made their noses too cute or something. I mean, it's a reality of life, and I think it's represented well, and it's a good educational but fun game.
Okay. And then my top scores, I had 8s for theme, art, replayability, and ease of play.
Wow.
Kind of opposites on this one. However, we both really like it.
Oh.
I have a total score in my top for this group, 7.5.
And mine, I think, also top for this group, 8.8.
Nice.
So, yeah, really, really fun, enjoyable game. Highly recommended. And another banger from Elizabeth Hargreaves, which is kind of cool, like 3 for 3. Pretty amazing to create 3 games like this and have them all be really solid and something I'd want to pick up and play again.
So for our next episode, do we do the hidden box or do we do the...
I don't know. We'll have to decide. There's a lot of junk in there, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see. You'll find out.
But we will continue next time. Hope to see you again. Bye-bye.
Green meeple, purple meeple.